If you do any prospecting with LinkedIn, you have got to go get set up with Surf. That's SURFE. It's a tool you can use to add new contacts to your CRM system directly from LinkedIn in seconds. I'm using it every single day. I add contacts, follow my deals, keep track of notes, and it ends up saving me a bunch of time on prospecting and outreach, which means I can spend more time moving my deals along. The data is always 100% accurate since I don't have to copy and paste all the fields over from each and every contact that I want to put in my CRM. Instead, Surf does that all automatically with just one click in about 60 seconds. The team over at Surf has put together a very special offer for fans of sales players. There's a link down in the show notes, and you can use the promo code JWSurf5. Don't forget the E at the end of Surf. That's JWSurf5 for 5% off your first year. Don't spend another minute doing things manually. Go get set up with Surf.
This episode is sponsored by Apollo, a tool that's helping me to open doors and close deals faster. Wanted to share it with you. Apollo is a complete end-to-end sales platform, letting you email, dial, connect on social, build plays, and schedule meetings. With conversational intelligence transcribing my calls lately and reminding me to act on my next steps to drive deals across the finish line, it's been a lifesaver. It's no wonder Apollo is the most loved sales tool on the planet. Thousands of users rank Apollo as a top tool on G2. Start today completely free and see how Jesse and I use Apollo. Sign up in the show notes below or at thesalesplayers.com/Apollo. That's thesalesplayers.com/APOLLO to start your free trial.
Welcome to Sales Players, the #1 podcast for top players in B2B sales.
Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out in the world of sales, this is the show for you.
We're all about bringing you fresh, actionable ideas to supercharge your rev gen game.
We dive deep into the mindset, habits, and tools used by top performers in the industry. Generate more leads, close more deals, and build wealth and financial security in B2B sales.
So if you're ready to level up, you've come to the right place. Join the conversation with other like-minded sales players and continue the discussion beyond the show.
Hit the subscribe button, tune into the Sales Players, and let's start winning together. All right, Sales Players, I want to welcome everybody to this week's episode. We're really excited. We have Colin Specter, who is the current VP of Sales at Orum. Welcome to Sales Players, Colin.
Chase, Jesse, thanks so much for having me on the show. Really excited to be here with the Sales Players community and jam with you guys today. Looking forward to this.
Well, today we're going to take a step back. I was actually looking at your LinkedIn profile, and we're going to take a step back from Orum, VP of Sales, but just give us a little bit of background of where you currently are in your career, and just give us a little history of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you introduced, VP of Sales at Orum, I've been the VP of Sales the last almost 5 years. Orum, I joined as the first sales hire that was not really part of the founding team as a bootstrap company, and then have scaled Orum to a Series B plus organization with 25 account executives and 12 SDRs and growing year over year, quarter over quarter. So it's been a journey scaling from kind of an individual contributor with a VP title to an actual VP reporting to the board and all of that. So that's been a journey for today. And prior to Orum, I was a director of sales at Namely, which was an all-in-one HR payroll and benefits solution. And I opened and owned the Southern California region for Namely. Started out there as an SDR and worked my way up to sales leadership and opening offices and owning P&L for my region. And so that was a really great ride. And prior to that, did my own startup. Prior to that, did a hospitality and service business doing Valet. I know we were jamming on the intro before as a
small world.
Commonality. So that's a high level background there on me.
Awesome, Colin. So would love to learn more. So just tell me what is Orum? I've been hearing about it with Gong and Apollo, all these different sales tools. I would like to just learn more quickly. Like, what does Orum help with?
Yeah.
Yeah, Orum helps with getting salespeople into more conversations with their target market, with their target contacts. And so it's the smartest phone system on the market today for revenue teams, for sales professionals. We say the smartest way to make a call today. So that it's really a phone system geared for revenue teams.
Awesome. So let's go back. So you worked for a valet company. I would love to learn, and I actually owned a valet company as well. I started for a large conglomerate valet company in Kentucky, and then made the switch to starting my own valet company in Louisville. But I would just like to learn more about your experience of leading teams in the hospitality and how that sort of has helped you in your tech career, and how did you make that jump from physical hospitality to remote tech world?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. So I was going to go to Santa Barbara. I went to Santa Barbara for college, started out Santa Barbara City College, which was the junior college there, and then eventually UC Santa Barbara. And I knew I was going to need to pay for rent. Like I didn't want to take any loans. I didn't have, college savings going in. So I needed to get a job. And so I was actually on a plane after my high school graduation. I was on a plane going on a trip as a graduation present. And I met a guy on the plane. I sat next to him, and we were on the same tour group going to the Middle East to do a tour. And I happened to share, oh yeah, I'm going to go to Santa Barbara City College. He's like, oh, I went there for school. Oh, that's awesome. And I'm like, we got to talking. He's like, hey, like I had the coolest job while I worked there. I was a valet. And I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. Like what company? And he told me Signature Parking, gave me the owner's name. And he's like, yeah, name drop me. And I'm sure you can get, an interview. And so that's what I did when I got, back home, got to Santa Barbara. I applied, I name dropped the guy. The guy had a great reputation there, and wound up getting a job as a valet in Santa Barbara. And for those, who are familiar, Santa Barbara is like a very like posh, well-to-do place. It's where like Oprah Winfrey lives. And, like I think the Prince and Princess of England, live there now too. So kind of that's how I got into valet, and that was an incredible experience. And it was truly the best college job because you got cash in your pocket every night in the form of tips, and you got to drive the coolest cars. Yeah. Like it's every if you're a car person, it's a dream job because you get exposure to cars and to different people. And I had certain accounts. I worked at an international hotel. I worked at private parties, restaurants. And it was such a great job that I started to recruit and build teams. Like my friends, I basically recruited all my friends in college to come do it with me. Other people that needed, extra beer money or kind of college money to pay rent or what have you. And so I basically built like teams of reps or not reps, valet parkers back then. Felt like reps.
Yeah.
And it was my first kind of taste of getting a commission, like a commission for providing a great service, and like instant gratification with a tip if you really wowed someone. And so my whole thing was I wanted to be the best valet, and I would like keep an eye for the person. If they're leaving the party, I'd bring their car up, door open, like get their guest door as well. And they're always just so wowed. How did you know it was me? And I would just do these little extra things, and they would pay me, very, very handsomely there. And it was like great money, great experience. And I wound up opening an office for that company in LA as well. After college, I went LA, where I'm originally from, Los Angeles, and opened an office, and then had the experience of like opening an office and recruiting and getting new accounts. And so that was really my first foray into more selling on the B2B side. And I'll say this, like that experience, just doing hospitality, doing valet, I would say was so informative. Of course, going to UC Santa Barbara, just being a very social school, but the valet world, working at the International Hotel, I would credit especially getting exposure to so many different types of people and learning to communicate with all kinds of people, facing all kinds of emotions. You start to get a real sense of communication, both verbal and nonverbal, in different types of cultures and people. And so that has certainly laid a great foundation for me in the selling world from a communication perspective. So I highly credit my valet experience to the success I've had in selling from IC to leadership. So that's the kind of valet background there.
So talk to us a little bit about the transition then, and maybe some of the skill you've shared, like that some of the motivators were the same, right? Between being a valet and being a B2B salesperson. What were some of the skills that you maybe parlayed specifically from that like service-based role into tech sales, and maybe some that you still leverage today?
Yeah, I mean, I really built this sense of resiliency and thinking on my feet. And I'll share a quick story, like a valet story. And, working with a bunch of college kids, right? Like, and myself at the time being one of them, there was always risk, like somebody might not show up, for the job, especially if it was like a morning job,
Yep.
After a night of partying. And so, in Santa Barbara, there's all these vineyards in the hills. And so one of the accounts, we had they were having like a crush party where they invite all their wine club members, hundreds of people to come crush grapes and drink and have a good time. And that was starting at 10 a.m. up in the foothills. So I show up for the job and I'm supposed to have a crew of like 4 or 5 other guys at minimum, and nobody else shows up. And this vineyard has these gates to the long driveway up to the vineyard, and all the cars are starting to like line up at the gate. And I'm calling like the owner of the company. I'm like, hey, nobody else has shown up for this job. Like I'm alone, and there are 100 something cars waiting to get in, and I'm gonna need to like take this on right now. And I remember like this feeling of like, and the owner's like, well, that vineyard's like 30 minutes from downtown. I'll send someone from one of the hotels to come support you, but they're not going to be there for the and from the valet, it's like the arrival and the departure, right? That's like, those are the 2 moments you really need to be working and like there. It's like, all right, I'm just going to have to beast mode this, take on 100 something cars by myself right now. And I just had to go and get into action mode and triage the situation. And so I had to quickly develop a system where I would funnel the cars in. I'd have everyone just, I would ticket everybody. They'd roll the window down, leave the key in it. And I just rolled everybody, snaked everybody up the driveway. My goal was just get everybody into the party, and I'd clean up the mess later, just like they knew that they were ticketed. I know their keys are in the car. And I remember just this feeling of like the gates of like hell are about to open, and I'm just like going to go through the crucible right now and freaking like rock this thing. And it was awesome. Like, I just remember figuring it out and triaging the situation. And so there were many moments like this throughout that journey that really taught me to think quickly on my feet and triage a situation and like de-escalate, maybe a really upset customer or deal with those kind of communication moments. So it was a lot of problem solving, and that could be like trying to fit a car in an interesting spot. Or triaging, like, how do I handle 100 cars by myself and get everybody parked within like a very short time frame so they're in the party and nobody's upset. So those are just some of like the quick things that I reminisce on from that world.
Let's shift gears a little bit, because I want to hear about some of the learnings over your last couple of years, especially as you've sort of moved from being a direct seller into leadership. I was checking out some LinkedIn posts that you put out and seeing a lot about calling technique. I think that's obviously really relevant based on what Orum does. But what things should our listeners be thinking about right now? We're almost to the middle of 2024, and it's been an interesting selling year to start. Although I do think things are getting better, it's still kind of a tough market out there to get deals done. What kind of trends should we be looking at, and what kind of things should our listeners be thinking about as they approach the rest of their selling year?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of noise with, new tech and AI and all that. I really believe the things that truly will differentiate you as a sales professional and that stand the test of time is your ability, your soft skills, your people skills. And that's as long as you're developing your communication skills, your people skills, that's going to hold true no matter what new tech comes out or new process or new way of doing things. And what I've seen with some of like the newer generation of sales rep is a lot of them didn't grow up like talking to people live on the phone. And so you have to like extra teach them, enable them to get exposure to talking to all kinds of different people and thinking quickly on their feet and having these more these sync conversations, right? These bidirectional, interpersonal, real-time conversations, right? Because, a lot of folks are used to texting or email where you have time to think about how I'm going to reply to this. And so the ability to think quickly on your feet and navigate a conversation and navigate objections and the person's emotions and convey conviction and read the room and read between the lines and see like what is not being said explicitly. Those type of nuances and skills, I'd say, are more important than ever as a sales professional. That's whether you're an SDR, AE, or sales leader. So I mean, it's as everybody's like swaying towards like more automation, more technology, I'm saying like stay a little more analog and back to blocking and tackling the basic building blocks of what sales is about, transferring your emotion, your conviction, and finding commonality to solve someone's problems and be, their preferred choice to solving someone's problems. So, I mean, from a tactical perspective, practice talking to people, that practice your objections, practice your scripts, and do that with all kinds of different personalities and people. So that's like a quick one that I see becoming all the more important in this day and age of, digital transformation.
By the way, I just learned about, maybe Chase, it was your first time hearing about it too. We had another guest on the show who was telling us about these simulators for cold calling. Are you familiar with any of these? Like, I guess it's an AI simulator. I had never heard about this. And now I need to go find one to try out because I think that's such a cool concept that an AI could coach you. I guess maybe not coach you, but put you in a simulated environment that feels like you're actually talking to a specific prospect. Curious if it sounds like you've heard of it. Have you implemented any of that for your team at Orum?
We haven't implemented any of those technologies yet, but I'm familiar with them. I know some of them have gotten better than others. And there's, and look, AI is getting better all the time, right? And I think there are some out there that are pretty high fidelity, high quality. And whether you're practicing with a person or with AI, I highly encourage you to practice. And I think maybe there's less nerves practicing with an AI. And that it's like I surf and it's like I can go surf a wave pool, right? And I know, it's like there's no sharks in the water. I go practice my turns and drop in, and I would consider the AI like that. It's like consistently like this, and you could turn up the wave. You can give the AI a better prompt to like hey, like mimic you're the CRO of Amazon, and I'm coming in to do the executive presentation, and so you can prompt these AIs, and I think that's a really unique form of practice. Or you can do that with your manager if your manager's a really good role player, right, or a peer. But absolutely practice. I am a huge fan of, the innovations there. I think it's going to give people a safe space where they feel comfortable and confident to practice more as well, which is great for all.
Yeah, I think it's really cool because the way that I came up in my career, it was just like, hey, here's the tier 4 list. Go call the tier 4 list and you're going to fall on your face a handful of times. And that's how you're going to learn how to cold call. Sure. And now it's like, hey, no, I can actually really get myself in the headspace of as if I'm calling a tier 1 C-level prospect. And it's going to feel real, but to your point about like surfing in a wave pool versus the real thing is, you're going to get less bumps and bruises and, hopefully it's a little bit more secure and you can reflect a little bit more on, okay, if I were really doing this in the real environment, here's what I do differently. And here's what I now know. Right. So I think it's a really cool concept.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing that I think about this, and it goes back to my valet days, is like sometimes you just got to get in there and just do it and create your own process. And that was one thing that I really learned about when I got into SaaS sales is I have to create a repeatable process, and it can be very simple of just getting those reps in, of making those calls if I'm an SDR, booking those meetings and consistently blocking out my time and doing that on a daily basis, but creating a system that is repeatable. And then I can train that to my next person. And then that helps to build out the team. And I can just basically go into, work mode and just drill through what I need to get done. So I believe I'm not all into the AI, like it's going to solve everything. I think that you still have to get in the weeds and make those dials.
Yeah. Time in the water, time in the field. Like for surfing, we say time in the water is that really, you can read about surfing, you could even do a wave pool, but really time in the real ocean out there navigating the storminess and the uncertainty of it is how you actually get better in navigating and reading the waves. And I'd say very similarly, like to your point about being out in the field, talking with customers, and you never know what you're going to run up against. You start to see patterns with the different kind of nature of humans and their emotions. And so you get better and better, and you can start to create a system and certain kind of decision tree heuristics in your mind of like, when I see that pattern, I know I should go down this path and run this play. And so I think it's getting really good at knowing what those main patterns are and getting trained and knowing your script so well you can never get it wrong. And you could just riff with somebody no matter which direction they take you. I think like that's like the black belt of selling, and it's like, that's what I love about sales is it's like endless mastery. You can never totally master it all. So.
And Collin, what have you seen basically the difference in selling pre-COVID versus post-COVID these days? Like, are you seeing sales teams needing to change up their sales strategy in a post-COVID world, especially with Orum?
Yeah, I think, obviously pre-COVID, we were getting on site by and large for most of our deals, our sales, interactions, buying interactions. And then when the pandemic hit, we had to move everybody to doing the Zoom demos, 100% Zoom demos. We would do a virtual demo and then we'd get on site with them because we would go. So Orum, we sell a sales phone system. We would go into the sales floor with the reps, train them on the system. And, everybody would be in the same office by and large, making calls together. Right. And so when the pandemic happened, it was remote teams. So we had to get creative and do like Zoom breakout rooms. And then we got tired of doing the Zoom breakout rooms. So we actually at Orum built a virtual sales floor. So it's a virtual kind of world where you're in these like kind of Zoom screens, like on this, on this app. And then as you get connected to a call, it automatically mutes the other people so they can hear you, or your manager can decide which conversation they want to jump into to help or coach on. And so we had to adapt. And so we adapt with technology and just our own, kind of hybrid thing. Now, post-pandemic, we're seeing a mix. You see some people return to the office full-time or part-time. Some people are still distributed and remote. And so you got to be flexible to your customers. And it's one of our discovery questions is trying to understand what is the makeup of their revenue organization. Are they in specific, satellite offices? Are they remote? Do they come in? Are there certain days we can come visit them? So you got to flex and meet your customers where they are is my recommendation there.
Talk to us a little bit more about the virtual sales floor. Cause this, I might be a little old school, but I haven't spent enough time doing this. And my, an SDR counterpart of mine showed me this the other day, and I had no idea that that's how teams were operating. Just maybe share a little bit more for any listener out there who might be from my stage of life, who again came up in the in-person call center or the in-person sales floor, and isn't used to like sort of virtual environments for this kind of thing. But I want to hear more about some success metrics and things like that around implementing something like this for your sales team.
Yeah, I mean, going back to like really as you're alluding to here, Jesse, right? Like for me as well, it was sitting on the sales floor next to the other reps, the more senior reps, hearing talk tracks that were keeping people on the phone, different openers, different objection handles. That exposure, that immersion certainly helped accelerate my own learning. And when the pandemic hit and everybody was remote and distributed, new sales professionals coming in were not getting that type of exposure. And so what a lot of companies were doing, including ourselves, we would get on a screen share and we would like take turns. But the problem with that is like you had to make sure everybody muted at the same time, and it became very cumbersome to do it on Zoom. So we created our own that was built specific to making calls together in a collaborative way. And the benefit of that is you're getting as close as possible to a real sales floor experience, where if I'm a rep, I can just toggle, like automatically listen to whoever gets a connection next. And so it's like streaming like kind of a Twitch or Clubhouse of like sales conversations as they're happening live. And then I can chat, like celebrate, like, yeah, that's awesome. Say this as if you're high-fiving on the sales floor.
Super cool. Yeah.
So it's, we want to recreate that because we know it's like one of the key ingredients to building a high-performing sales team. You have to have collaboration. You have to see what good looks like and celebrate in real time when you can.
Yeah, it's something that we've talked about a lot on the show. And I feel very fortunate because early on in my career, when I was an SDR, when I was, heavy cold call role, I was really fortunate to be in the office. And then more so, I spent a lot of my career in early startups. So I got to spend time in the office with leadership and with technical talent, with our CEO. And so there's all kinds of like audibles that you pick up on when you're in an office environment that are a little bit harder to convey over Zoom. But I like the sound of this because it sounds like you can still capture some of those coaching moments. You can capture some of those learnings without necessarily having to be in the same place. Because I'm so mixed on the topic. So much of me is like, man, if you're younger and earlier in your career, I should say, go try to find an in-office role. But I also realize like some of the best talent in the industry might not live in one of the major markets for tech, and I count myself now in that because I wouldn't call where I live, Phoenix, a huge tech market. But I think I'm pretty good at what I do, and I'm glad that there's been several SaaS companies that have taken a bet on me, right? So. Mixed feelings on the whole thing, but I think this is a nice like middle ground where it's, hey, let's get the best talent in the country wherever they are, but let's also still be able to provide them the right kind of coaching and audibles and those kind of things that are going to help them grow in their career and sell more and convert more and those kind of things too.
Yeah, it's been a great bridge, especially when a company is saying, hey, we're going to have a return to the office policy, but like a rock star like yourself who's in Phoenix and maybe the office is in the Bay Area. And you moved during the pandemic to Phoenix and you're like, oh shit. Yeah. Well, now you can bring Orum to them and say, hey, look, I found another way for us to be bridged, into an experience that you're going to be able to help coach me live. I'm going to be immersed with the team. And so we've seen this as like a good answer to businesses that want to have the come back to office policy, but also don't want to, kind of like have a challenging, I'd say, conversation with their remote talent. They're their top remote talent, like to the point of earlier. So,
Collin, I would like to talk to you about, a lot of times we've talked to people that have gone from SDR to AE, but I would love to talk to you about going AE to VP of sales and making that, like, if you are trying to go in that trajectory, like what mindset should you be in? What helped you to get in these VP roles and make that switch? Just love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I mean, look, like if for any promotion in any job, I've always followed that mantra, do more than like do the work of the next job before you're actually in that next job, and you do more than you're paid for. And eventually you'll get paid more for what you do. Right. Wow. And so I've just lived by that principle, and it allowed me to advocate for myself, to accelerate my career. Because as a rep, I would kind of not, without even the title of team lead or manager, I would be developing unique playbooks. I would be coaching others in the sales floor. I was top of the leaderboard, so I had earned that respect, and reps wanted to, emulate what I was doing. And I would find creative ways that maybe our VP of sales wasn't thinking about. For example, finding what we call like network nodes from a partnership perspective. Like as an SDR, this is what I did. Like I was at an HR tech company calling HR leaders about, performance management, payroll, HR, benefit administration. And I kept hearing, oh, well, we really depend on our insurance advisor, for recommendations on the Ben admin and HR system. Oh, okay. Like who's your insurance advisor? And then that person's not my call list. I would just go call them outside of my CRM and build a relationship with them and say, hey, like I heard, you advise this company. I would love to introduce our business to you if you would recommend technologies. And then I started to just naturally create a partnership program. And then I had all these people referring me business that were outside of like the lead flow or typical call list. And all the reps are like, how the hell is Collin like 3x the number? And I just had other people working for me now, sending me meetings so I could book it for the AE. And I was, just smashing accelerators. And they were just like, what the heck? And then we wound up hiring a partnership leader. But, I did that in like before I was paid to, right? Like so just doing like getting creative, being curious, like, and so I'd say that's number one as a foundation. The big mindset shift from rep to manager, and I'm sure, you hear this all the time and it's so true, is you really must be a selfless person. Like you naturally just want to help others, like help the people around you, and you get your fulfillment, really changing others, lives and worlds and income. And so building people up is like, what fills your cup. So for me, like that's always been my natural kind of gravitation is coaching and developing people and building people up. And if I, and my reps become my customers, if I take care of them, they're going to take care of the customers. And so if, that's the kind of mindset shift, because when you're a rep, you're really focused on yourself. Of course, you're focused on helping your customers. I think the best reps naturally do want to help people and help their customers and help the business. And so if you could translate that to looking inward at your business and your company and helping your own business and people, that I think is a big mindset shift going from rep to leader. I can keep going from manager to VP. Like there's a stepping change there. If you want to, should we go down?
Yeah, let's hear it. We're all ears.
Yeah, I think that for me was a really interesting shift. I think naturally as sales professionals, we're like pleasers, right? We by and large are pleasers. And when you go from manager, where you're really an advocate for your reps, like you're taking care of your reps, they're your children, and for lack of a better term, you're really developing them and nurturing them. When you go to a director or a VP, where now your team is really the executive team, the business team, and so you have to be much more of like first team. It's called first team, right? First team principle is my executive leadership team. That means my fellow VP of marketing, my fellow VP of RevOps, my VP of finance, not necessarily my reps, right?
Yeah.
But my managers are now my customers. So I need to straddle making sure that my first team is being prioritized and we're all aligned with my reps. And I think a challenge that I myself walked through this challenge is I was still holding on to that. I have to advocate for the reps. I have to advocate for the reps because as a manager, that's what made me a great manager. Is I was always about the rep. To I'm about the business now. I'm about my VP of finance. I'm about my VP of marketing, VP of RevOps. So it's an interesting shift. And I think it's like you can read about it, but not until you go through it do you kind of psychologically understand it, because you get this kind of cognitive dissonance.
Yeah,
at least for me, right? It may be different for others, but that was an interesting transition for me.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And did you go through any coaching? Did you reach out to like external coaching programs, or did your team help you to get there, or how did you make that shift?
Yeah, I always had great leaders in my career, and I think sometimes I would reach out. I would reach out sometimes to some of my old bosses. I think actually something I highly, and this is why it's important to always, end things on a positive note, keep your bridges intact. And a lot of my former bosses are now my mentors. And so in terms of like external coaching, not necessarily like a formal coach, I didn't hire like a formal coach, but I would lean on like my old VP of sales at namely Michael Manny, who's now the VP of sales at Ramp, one of the fastest growing SaaS companies. I would, call him from time to time and say like, what did you do in this like comp plan situation, or how'd you navigate? And I actually like would just ruminate on interactions I had with Michael when I was a rep at Namely or a manager at Namely, and how like I would get mad at him or frustrated at him or with him. And then I'd be like, holy shit, I'm now the VP that like, I understand why my managers are mad at me. Or now, and then I would text him and be like, man, I so appreciate everything you did for us. I had no idea until now I'm in it. And the politics you probably had to navigate, and like the hard decisions you had to make, and just so you need someone. You need someone that it could be really lonely in a leadership role. So if you don't have someone like that, you should certainly hire. There's some great coaches out there. I think Kevin Dorsey is a great coach. And a friend. He does leadership coaching. There's some phenomenal people out there that you can lean on if you don't have that within your network. So,
what I guess in summary, actually, first maybe share with us where our listeners can reach out to you if they want to connect and follow your content and learn more about the company and everything else.
Yeah, so I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can get me there. Again, Colin Specter. I'm sure we'll put a link in the show notes. And then Orum, of course, if you want to try Orum out, Orum.com, ORUM as in mother.com. We have a free trial, no credit card required. You can test Orum out and see the kind of productivity gains that you can get on the phone with our platform. And then, I would say LinkedIn, Orum, those are probably the two best places. Somewhat active on X or Twitter, not
whatever
super,
it's called,
a little bit. But yeah, LinkedIn is probably best for me.
All right. So final question, just in summary here. And as we wrap up, what is one thing that you're working on this year for yourself to level up in your own career that you can share with our listeners?
Yeah. So I'm really excited because we've been making this big push into the enterprise, and
nice.
For me, it's been really exciting to navigate some of the largest companies in the world and bring these transformational projects to them. And for us at Orum, it's like transforming their sales culture, their calling culture. And so navigating really the political climate of a large, Fortune 100 business and aligning all the stakeholders, the sales team. This has been like a really kind of a stretch up for me. Namely, I was much more upper mid-market, small enterprise. And at Orum, by and large, we've been more mid-market, small enterprise. And now we're actually with some of the largest companies in the world, which has really been a stretch up and exciting. And so this year it's all about navigating. It's focusing some of our team just on prospecting a completely different kind of rhythm to the business and enterprise versus more of kind of a mid-market or a SMB transactional type of sale. So that's a big stretch up for me and been an exciting kind of growth opportunity this year.
That's awesome. So scaling up, going upstream into the enterprise, learning the art of selling to big companies.
Yes. Yeah. It's like you're much more of like a large project manager. Then I'd say maybe just the best way to describe it. A lot of moving parts up market.
It is a lot more stakeholders, a lot more threads you got to manage. It's a whole thing.
100%. Yeah. What about you guys?
That's a good. Chase, you want to first?
Chris or Colin, I'm actually at Hyros. So I'm an IC at Hyros, and we're an ad attribution platform, and we've been having a probably 95% inbound leads, but we're starting to go outbound, and it's really exciting. So we're going after like agency partners, technology partners, different SaaS brands. So that's been really exciting for me to just create those referral partnerships and get those people to just funnel deals our way. And it's really exciting. And I'm just learning a lot on how our founder, Alex Becker, has just exploded our company from his YouTube following. And it's really, really exciting.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, going outbound is my world. So happy to jam on that anytime.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny as far as like how I'm leveling up this year. A lot of it's going back to some of the basics that I lost touch with because my trajectory was, transactional to, up the enterprise. And I've now spent the last several years just focused on enterprise deals. And this is very common for enterprise sellers is you sometimes lose touch with the basics of sales, the 101 stuff, like making cold calls, which I never thought would happen, because when I was in the seat doing a lot of cold calls, I thought I'll always do this. This is the answer to all my problems in sales is just more pipeline, more calls, more connections. And then, then someone throws you an inbound lead that's a massive deal, and that becomes your entire life, because you have to manage, as you put it earlier, just all those moving parts, all those different facets. And I remember when I was an SDR thinking, what the hell do the enterprise guys do all day? They've got one deal. And it's like, oh, trust me, it takes up the whole day. Now that I'm in the seat, I realize like it's not just one meeting a day. There's so much preparation and planning and internal navigation that has to happen. So for me, it's part going back to the fundamentals of picking the phone back up again and making a lot of cold calls and getting consistent on doing that. And then the other thing is exactly that aspect of enterprise that's managing your internal resources better. It is something that I've managed to get decent at, but I want to get great at it, which is, again, being able to delegate things internally, make the right asks at the right time to your internal team. And that's a whole career in of itself, really, is how do you get your entire company marching in the same direction as you with this potential customer so that you can show them the alignment and you can present that as a value point. And it sounds so easy just to say it. Oh yeah, everybody just needs to help close the deal. It's like, no, you've got to get, the right people on the right calls, prepared in the right way. And usually that's going to require a lot of internal documentation and meetings to plan all of that out. And so that's where I'm hoping to level up this year, is just improving my ability to orchestrate my internal resources to then go and hunt down some big logos.
Yeah, I love that, Jesse. I think that's why a lot of businesses call the enterprise rep an account director, right? You're really directing the scene, and you all the details on the scene, all the people, all the moving parts, the decks, the business case, everything is you're really that project manager, that director. So very much a different rhythm than SDR mid-market type of rep. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, Colin. It was fantastic having you on the show. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing your career journey and giving us a little taste of what Orum does. Anyone listening, definitely get connected with Colin and go check out Orum.
Thank you so much, Jesse, Chase. Really appreciate you guys. Thanks so much, sales players.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers.